Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Reda Gomri. I'm partner with Kearney. I'm in charge of digital and analytics activities and based in Paris. I'm really delighted to welcome you to the last session of the day, and this session is really about AI. So some of you could say, okay, why should we dedicate a session to AI, as we have talked about AI all the afternoon? But basically, the idea is to talk about AI in this session with some of the great experts and leaders who are running these activities on a daily basis in their companies. So I'm sure we will learn a lot about AI and AI initiatives. And so let me welcome you and thank you for attending to this session. And let me start with you, maybe Pierre-Yves, you can introduce yourself.
And now it's working much better. So I'm Pierre-Yves, I'm the Chief Digital Officer for Pernod Ricard. So French people will know the company from its iconic brand born in 1932 in Marseille. But now we are a big group with 19,000 employees in 70 markets, and you would know also some other brands like the whiskey Chivas, Jameson, or Absolute brands, which might be some of your favorites.
Yeah, thank you, Pierre-Yves. Mathieu?
Yeah, I'm not on the chart, but I show up anyway. So, my name is Mathieu Ovart. I'm in charge of digital, not for all Nestlé, one day maybe like you, but for Nestlé Europe, which is, by the way, big enough, we have enough work. So I do CDO, which is IT, data, and transformation associated to it. So how does the business transform itself?
Super, thank you, Mathieu. Stéphane?
Hello everybody, I'm Stéphane, another L'Oréalian in charge of beauty tech, which is a transformation around data, digital and IT at L'Oréal.
And Michel?
Hello everyone, I'm Michel. I'm a car guy. I've been spending 42 years of my career in the automotive industry at Renault and at Valeo, where I was former CTO and CMO. And now I'm a senior advisor in the automobile field.
Thank you, Michel. So let's start with an important question. Why is AI so important for the future development of product? Maybe we can start with you, Pierre-Yves.
So for me, the importance of AI actually is quite wide. So everybody knows ChatGPT and the impressive capabilities of text generation, images. The English is much better than mine, the French too, the image generation even better. But that's one part of it, which is important, that can help teams, whether it's marketing teams or product development teams, to design new concepts, because it can bring creativity. The great thing is that you can ask 20 times the same question and get 20 answers. Usually it's a little more difficult with some colleagues or even a trainee. And so here you have all that capability of generating new ideas, complements of information, etc., whether it's on the image part or the text part. So that's for helping on the creative and identifying some ideas. And I'm always pitching at the same time the use of what we call internally predictive AI, so the machine learning, which is managing figures, because one of the big complexities in the industry of fast-moving consumer goods is not just the development of nice products or nice marketing campaigns, is actually making sure we have the right mix at the time of launch. And so identifying what is the best combination of investment in marketing, presence in store, influencers, etc., is one of the tough parts. And this is where the predictive AI, analyzing patterns, figures, checking whether it fits with some historical products we've launched or not, or with some competitors' product, can be super interesting. And this is one of the power of the AI part, is processing large volumes of data and detecting patterns where it would be difficult to do it for somebody in Excel. So for me, that's the two great or large type of use case I can see in AI for new products.
Super. Stéphane, maybe you have a perspective on AI in L'Oréal.
Yeah, I think the good news about being the last panelist is that AI will solve all the questions that the other panel have asked. I'll give you a few examples. I'm not kidding. We talk a lot about consumer centricity and also individualization. I think Mary, you mentioned that we need to cater not for community but for individual. And I think we are using AI and technology to do that. In my field is by using your phone to do simple diagnostic and doing product recommendation, individual product recommendation, personalized. So that's how AI is addressing some of the consumer challenge. Not to mention, and we discussed that in the other panel, that listening to consumer is also key. We've also developed our own tool to listen and to monitor all the verbatim from the consumers. At the scale of L'Oréal, 1.2 billion consumers, that means reviewing 200 million reviews and ratings. So that's for the first panel. Second panel was about sustainability, and we need to change our ingredients to be more from bio-sourced. That means changing a lot and reformulating. So if to meet our sustainability target, we need to reformulate a significant part of our portfolio. And to do that, AI is helping because it's helping people in the labs to formulate quicker. By using augmented formulation, you can divide by 4 the time you required before. And because I like Pierre-Yves and we do many things together, I have the similar project, which is how to optimize the way you spend your marketing to address the consumers where they are. And for L'Oréal, I call it the 13 billion questions, because we spend 13 billion in marketing and media and advertising and promotion, and to know whether we do TikTok or we do Google search, whether we do TV or whether we do samples, that's where AI is playing. So some examples.
Super, thank you, Stéphane. Mathieu, what about Nestlé?
For me, sorry, does it work?
Yeah.
For me, it's very simple because I'm running 2 to 3 years behind L'Oréal and Pernod. So basically, I know them and I ask when they do, and I follow. So it's very, very we have exactly the same type of use cases. So for me, Gen AI is like another layer of usage of the data for prescriptive, predictive, and so on. But at the base, you have data. The difference is that data can be structured, and predictive models like structured data now can be also unstructured and you can also generate. So we see that as another layer. But AI in general makes a lot of sense. I think that like every company, when we started Gen AI, we created NestGPT, which is GPT by Nestlé. I think we all did that in our companies and so on. Then we moved to how can we use all the knowledge we have. We are quite an old company. We are more than 1.5 centuries, so we don't have scanned everything. But you can imagine how much we know and so on in the various places. So this is what we call a RAG for the specialist, which is how do you use all the information you have to predict, propose, augment people thinking about it. But that was a bit not superficial, but that's a bit the easy use cases. Now what we try to do is to embed Gen AI into our core processes. Product development is one of it, so I think we can discuss how we do. The same way we did with predictive and prescriptive AI, as you do with we spend a lot, we don't really know where and for what, and this is about promotion, media, merchandising, and so on. So, in the US we say it's more bang for the buck, which is the ROI of all what you do. But I think with Gen AI, this open new areas to revisit how we do things, and I guess we're going to speak about product development after.
Thank you very much. You start to talk about Gen AI. That's really interesting because sometimes we're talking about AI, Gen AI. It could be a bit confusing. Can you help us learn more about this concept? What is really new in this space? Or maybe you, Pierre-Yves.
Yeah, so the interesting part, I heard a conference when somebody said, where were you 2 years ago when you discovered the ChatGPT? So statistics say you were on your phone and probably on the toilets. This is for me what happened, not in the toilets, but I just asked ChatGPT what should be the digital strategy of Pernod Ricard. I got pretty nice answer, and I thought for 20 minutes, shit, I don't have a job anymore. And then I realized that actually what we do is much more than that. And then I started to understand, or to try to understand at the beginning, which is not that easy, how it works. And for me, what is important to understand is that the Gen AI part is amazing for two reasons. One is that it's based on almost all the data from the written data from the internet. So we are talking about 350 billion pages, which have been, I'm simplifying a lot, but summarized in a kind of matrix where the words are close or not to one another. And then the tubes is pretty basic, in fact. I just identify what is the next word that comes statistically after beginning of a sentence or based on your prompt. So it's a relatively simple technology with huge amount of data, but that's data which is only from the internet. So it means that that system, apart from the data that you have published from your company externally, so it can be the annual report, etc., but it has almost none of the data which is internal. And this is where it's interesting to identify what it can do and cannot do, because all the words that you would get as an answer will come from the internet. You can influence by getting some rights, so giving some document as an input so that it actually tries to get mainly the information from those documents and summarize, but all the words are created one by one from the internet. And so the type of application that we can have from this are really good on internet data. So what can I do in 3 days in Istanbul? Wow, pretty amazing, hour by hour meeting. However, every time you're asking something really specific about your company, etc., at the beginning is not great, and you need to push a lot of elements for it to work. So, for me, this understanding of how the part of text creation is working is helping to identify where it will be good. So, for example, we are doing a lot of things on insights from consumers. We have big documents with a lot of insights, and here, when we're asking for a summary, I don't care whether it's polluted a little from all the data from the internet. Actually, it can be a little better. Now, when it's something which is really precise within the company, it starts to hit the limit. So I'm saying, marketing guys, go for it. It's creative. It's precise 85%. That's much more precise than anything in marketing. But when we are starting to try to do things for finance, 15% inaccuracy is a big issue. When 0.01 cent on 1 million is an issue. So for me, this is the important part of your question, is understanding how things work, and this is my mental map of how ChatGPT and other tools like this work. It's thinking that it's taking all the data from the internet, really well summarized, etc. But you then identify the limits, and then there's a lot of methodologies to try to avoid those limits, but you still get it at some stage. And that's one of the tricks I'm giving to the teams internally to select the right usage of it. So marketing a lot, finance much less.
Super. Michel, what is your perspective on AI and how AI could really help to shape the future of product?
Well, I'm more an industrial guy, so
Yeah.
more on the technical side rather than on the marketing side.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, I think there is a lot of potential. As an engineer, AI for me is a tool. It's an extremely powerful tool, but it's still a tool. But a tool which could really unfold some possibilities that you never have access to before. There are very interesting points regarding speed. It could give you solutions at the speed of light. I have examples where we got solutions in 3 minutes where it could take months just by analyzing many data, and they're capable really to sort out the data in a smart manner to give us a result. I also have an example, and I think in the automotive industry it's typical. You have very complex system to solve, and beyond a human being capability. And here AI is very good because it could really embrace tons of data, millions of data that no one could do by itself or by himself, and therefore could get a result out of this. And I have also some examples which are extremely critical where you can really go things that you were never able to do before. Remember, DeepMind did unfold this famous molecule that all the Nobel Prize were not capable to unfold for 50 years. There are such things that we can do. I will give you one example. Typically, everyone is speaking about autonomous driving, autonomous car, blah, 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 specifically Elon Musk. But when it comes to what you have to do for that, you have to use, in particular, cameras. And cameras, then they just see something, but then you have to analyze what the camera are viewing, and you have to make sure that you see a dog and not a kid, or not a car. And you have to make the difference. Then you have to make annotation, blah, blah, blah. And AI with machine learning is extremely powerful tool in order to really to help you to sort out all the data in real time so as to have a real-time response. And that's extremely powerful at a point that even another example, you have a camera which is plugged by mud, typically, so you see nothing. You can recreate the image through AI by having just some pixels which are not in the mud, and you can recreate the image which is behind the mud with a good accuracy of image. So typically, this is something that no one can do by himself, and that could be done real time. So these are some examples, but you have also other examples in the industrial world. Typically, computer vision also is very helpful in plants in order to analyze the production, to see what product is good, what product is wrong, and give you a better yield in your production by sorting out all the bad stuff and keeping the good stuff in production. And we use this extensively today in plants in order to improve. So that's a very powerful tool. You need tons of data, and it could unfold really big possibilities.
Super, thank you very much. Stéphane, what are the use cases, the most impactful use cases that you have either started to implement or you're about to implement within L'Oréal?
So I mentioned some of them. I'll give you the one on what we call marketing mix modeling, because for us, we spend a lot of money on marketing. And this one was to make the decision on where we invest our marketing money. Between the brands, between the categories, between the different touch points. And this is similar to what you were saying, which is it has so many parameters, so many data, that it's beyond human capability to really make the decision. But what I wanted to mention on that one is that it's also helping us to change the way we think and not to always do the same thing. Let me explain. When you are marketing, and we have nothing against marketers, by the way. When you are marketing, when you are leading a marketing brand, when you need to reallocate your marketing budget between different touch points, taking big bets like, okay, I will stop TV and I will shift to more new type of touch points. It's a bold decision to make, because most of the time you try to do as you were doing before and do some small shifts. And to help people make this decision, it's only because we have been developing these tools that are saying that, look, it makes sense to do these shifts using AI, that people are doing that. So they are helping people to reopen the way they see their marketing mix, and to make this decision, just saying that I'll follow the tool. If it's wrong, I'll blame the tool. And I think this AI augmented people, that's really key, and it's true in all the use cases. You have to work a lot on that relationship between the human and the tool, to know the limits, to help them understand the tools, to also take some bets based on the tools. And AI and Gen AI are only tools and solutions, and you need to work a lot on that human-machine relationship.
Super. So is it the same challenge for you, Mathieu, within Nestlé?
If we can stay on the same example, which I think is very acute for companies like us, which is how do you spend better what you used to spend. We cannot do the same now, and I would say the data below and the model below, they are the same. but we've seen some adoption challenges by some people who don't maybe use at scale the same way an advanced analytic solution, prescriptive, predictive, and so on. And what we are finding by now is that adding a layer on top of it of GenAI, which is more conversational, recommendation, and so on, is the adoption process. The recommendation won't be better per se, because it still relies on the same data and the same model, but it is the adoption process. And we do that on media spent. We do that to pilot what our sales force does in supermarkets, where we visit, what do they do, and so on. But I think this conversational layer makes it very human, and you don't even have to type, you don't have to bother, you don't have to fix the parameters of your model, the constraint, and so on. It does that for you with natural language instruction.
Super. What is required to run these AI initiatives properly in terms of capabilities? Can you help us learn more about the best practices, Pierre?
So actually it's interesting because you need quite a lot of things. The starting point for me is a good use case. So it's something that will be relevant for your company in your context, and something that will generate at some stage, ideally early, some P&L benefits, because there's a lot of costs that can go behind. So if you're not starting with something that will deliver value, it's going to be difficult to finance it, to motivate the people, to get this as a priority. And what I've learned from the projects we've done, so if I take, for example, the same example of marketing mix modeling, or identifying what the sales force will be doing this week, we give a precise recommendation. You need to work with the sales team, but you need information from marketing, you need information from finance about the margin of the product, from supply chain about availability of the stocks, etc. So that's projects which are across various entities in the company. And if it's not a priority project, a meeting that could happen next week will happen in 2 months, because people have availabilities which are limited. So having a return on investment is key, and that will drive the engagement, the money to get there. A lot. And for me, that drives also, once you know where you're going, you identify what kind of data which is needed for those cases to run. So marketing mix modeling, for example, you need, in our experience, 3 years of weekly historical information about how much you spent on social media, on TV, on activations in store, etc., week by week, and you need the sales to the consumers. So in companies like us, it's a little difficult because most of the time we're selling to retailers or wholesalers. We don't have that information. So in that case, we had to collect 2 new data, the activations week by week, because we had already the invoice from the marketing agency, but it's an invoice in June for something that happened in May or in September, October. That was not granular enough. And the sales to the consumers were actually not precise enough, so we had to collect that data, normalize it, so making sure that it fits in the right columns so that an algorithm can process them. And this, when you do it at scale, so we currently have 28 countries with that application, you need in each country to almost redo the process, because they have different clients, different ways of doing it, not everything is available. And so you need to have people which are locally, it's called data stewards. I don't like the term, it seems like you're in a plane, but that's the term of the industry. So you have those data stewards which are collecting the data from Carrefour, from Walmart, etc., checking that the promotion starts effectively on the Monday and finishes on the Saturday, etc. Then you get all of this centrally, you have the algorithm processing, data scientists which are checking that the curves look right, going back sometimes to the data, and then it's not finished, because if you just stay there, you just have curves that people look at and say, wow, that's nice, and they come back to do exactly the same thing they were doing before. You need to go down to recommendations. So you should increase your budget on Absolute in Germany by 35%. You need to lower TikTok or by 20%. You need to do more activation in store. And so you need to go down to actual recommendations that people will challenge, do other scenarios with other parameters. And the user interface, surprisingly, is quite important. but that's a small part of the cost of the project. So I recommend over investing on the user interface. That's usually 1% of the cost of the project. But if you invest 1.5%, so the technique will say, wow, this is 50% more expensive. Yes, but on 1% of the cost of the project. And this is where you get more adoption because the end point is adoption. If the recommendations are not adopted, return on investment is zero. So I've tried to go on the different parts of the process, but I would really recommend starting ROI, then see what you need in terms of data, get the recommendations, and then you look back 2, 3, 4 times before you get it.
Thank you. So you said the end point is adoption, and probably the starting point is the foundation or foundations in terms of data and tech. Stéphane, what about these foundations, and how do you secure them within L'Oréal to sustain these AI initiatives?
Yeah, it's true that to do all that, you need to invest in technology and you need to invest in some foundations. And when you do that, my advice, what I've learned, is really to do that at a scale of a group like us. You need a little bit of a centralization. I hate the word because we are an entrepreneur type of organization. But at least on some of this topic, on the foundations, on tech, if you want to scale, if you want to benefit from the learning in one country to the other, you need a little bit of centralization. So that's a little bit for us. It was a bit of a cultural shock. But still doing that in a way where you leave you create some interoperability to be able to adapt to the new regional approach that we see in the world. The second thing on the foundation, and I'll echo what Pierre was saying. When you think foundation, you always think technology, platforms, and that everybody thinks about it. But invest in people. Invest in the people that will work on the data. You call them data steward. But I think when we started on that journey of beauty tech, I think one of the decisions that we made, and we had some discussion with the CEO at that time, was we also need to hire many people that their only job will be to manage the data quality. And I call that part of the foundation, because if you don't do that, then all the sexy hype won't be able to happen. And when you work in tech, hype is a big world.
Super. Data management is super crucial, and I know, Mathieu, when we talked without preparing this session, it was an important topic. Can you tell us a bit more about what you're doing in this field?
Yeah, you mentioned the importance of people. I do agree. So of course there is all the training, the awareness, and so on. I think that now what we have to do is to make sure data is part of everyone's job. So for instance, I cannot produce for you or scale for you a use case if I don't have good data, accessible data, quality data. And by definition, even if you put zillions, the IT and data team cannot do that for the business, the function, and so on. So it's about creating those data stewards, data owners, let's call them whatever you want. But I mean, at the end of the day, sales needs to own sales data. When we have a key accounts discussing, not negotiating, but discussing with Carrefour every year, for instance, the discussion on price assortment is absolutely key, and they do it. But they also need to discuss what type of data we're going to exchange together to create value for you and for us. And of course, it's not all of them doing that because it's quite new. And we need the marketing team to challenge the quality of data sent by the agency. So you really need to make sure that you have a distributed, centralization is awful, but distributed is better, and a federated data ownership, so that after we can, with the framework we've created for the business, being the modern, interconnected tech stack, organized data asset, and so on, then we can build use cases where we don't reinvent the wheel all the time, recreate new data set, recreate governance, because it's very long, it's not sexy at all, it's costly. But if we have well distributed, people understanding why data matters for them, and they are the owners, then we can start to play our magic, basically.
I feel sometimes that the time it takes to set this data foundation is quite long, sometimes you need to accelerate on the implementation, and I know in some of your organization you start with the POCs and things like that. So how do you deal with these two, let's say, different timelines, the short term with the POCs and AI use cases, and the long terms in setting foundations? Maybe you, Pierre-Yves.
So I'll come back to my point on the value first. So the way we've done it in Pernod Ricard is that first we prove the value, and here we take the decision, but a conscious decision to create what the tech teams are hating, which is we create a technical debt. So from the beginning we go fast, but taking a technical debt is like when you are moving to a new apartment, you don't have all the money. It's great because you get the benefit of the apartment before having paid everything. So we, at the beginning, when we are not sure yet whether it's going to work, testing something new. So for example, we've been predicting the level of sugar in the grapes to optimize all the harvest for the Champagne Moom, for example. And at the beginning, we didn't know whether it would work, so we created things really quick and dirty. So Excel files, starting with a small part, then alimentation is quick and dirty also. It's run on a PC outside of the core systems. And then when we have a viticulture person saying, yes, wow, if you do that now every day, every week during the harvest, I'm going to be happy. This is when you say, okay, now I'm going to continue to maintain a little the bits and pieces which are working more or less together, because I know I have the value, and then I can ask to the money to create the nice server, the nice process, the nice pipeline, the nice business owners, and this way I'm paying part of the debt or the price I should have paid from the beginning, but I had the value first, and I could do 1 or 2 harvests in addition to waiting to have everything well done. So this is the way we are doing this in Pernod Ricard. So driving by the value, proving the value, because it's never sure that it's going to work, and then we move backwards and we do all the data mapping, data organization, data management, and we make sure this way that it will run smoothly in the long term in the other regions that we are going to deploy the tool.
Is it the same approach within L'Oréal, Stéphane?
Yes, I would say focus on a few bets. And the question I'm asking myself all the time to make sure that it's a true bet is, what is the problem that I'm solving? Because in tech, a lot of time you come up with solutions that don't solve the problem of anybody. So I think it sounds simple when I say that, but the first question is, what is the problem I'm solving to who? So focus is really the first one. What I would add to what Pierre-Yves said is, even though we consciously create technical debt, having scalability in mind right from the beginning, which is, in all the decisions that you make, it's always conscious, and you say, okay, this bet, because I know it's a true use case, I want to scale it. I'm not doing, it's like if I take the example of your flat, you are not doing all the refurbishment, but you have chosen the place, because the only thing that you can't change is the place, location. And I think it's the same in the use case, that you have that scalability by design in mind, and then in all the decisions that you will make, you make sure that it goes in that direction.
Super. Michel, do you have any perspective on the challenges that were mentioned? So here you mentioned the adoption, we have talked about skills, capabilities. What is your perspective?
Well, I think in the industrial world, maybe it's a bit complementary. What we have experienced is, first of all, you need to have competency about the tool itself. So at Valeo, we created Valeo.ai, a group of scientists, a group of researchers, and also a group of data scientists, which were shared between all of us, all across the company, in order to help us to implement AI activity all across. And the problem was really to accustom the engineers and the people in the company to the use of AI to find the good business case and to find the proper case where it could apply. And as an engineer, I will give you some example which was a bit surprising to us, because an engineer is a very rational guy using mathematics and equations and blah blah blah, learned at school. And when you use Gen AI, then you have a product, and you say, well, now you have to design for me a new product, giving some specs, blah, blah, blah. And we got the example of a product which came in minutes, which was totally alien. And we say, well, what is that? Don't understand even how it works. So nobody understood what was the product. We tested the product and it worked. And it worked a little bit better than what we are capable to do, not much better, but a little bit better, so it was worse. But the question was, you learn something at school and then you have to unlearn, because then it's no worse at all, because the machine did it for you. And the problem is, and I think you already tackled that point, you need clean data up front, because otherwise it's garbage in, garbage out. Like every tool. I have years of experience in simulation. In simulation, I did typically CFD. CFD is computational fluid dynamics, so mechanical fluid for French people. Yeah. And in English, we call it colors for directors, because you know nice colors and directors are, oh my God, it's nice, so it should be true, but it's not. Just garbage in, garbage out. And in AI, it's exactly the same. You can, if you feed the system or the AI or the model with something which is corrupted, which is not good, you're gonna get something extremely wrong at the end of the day. So the problem is you need people, and again, I agree with you on people that are capable to feed the system with quality data. And it's not only data scientists, these are experts that are people who knows exactly what are the questions they need to ask properly, with the proper detail that the model could understand. And then you need people at the end to check what is the result, to make sure that it's not completely stupid, it makes sense, or even you can reproduce it on a certain way. You will know that ChatGPT could invent some fake news if it doesn't find anything proper to answer. So you have to take care of that. So the quality of the data and the people going with the data are absolutely essential. And what is extremely important for us, it means that you need more people up front, more people at the end, and probably less people in the middle. So it's a complete reshuffling of the operations and a complete reshuffling of the working load of people, and even of the competency of people, because then you will do things differently, and you have to learn again how to work with those tools, which are completely new. And to appear, we are just at the very, 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 very beginning. Probably that will go much beyond what we can expect today. There are probably some risks. I know you probably know better the risks than me, but there are certainly huge opportunities as well.
Super. Thank you very much, Michel. Maybe in the last minute, we will take some questions from the audience. Yes, please. Can we get a mic?
Maybe I can speak first.
Yeah, please.
So we are all convinced that IA digital can generate value and potentially productivity. We also understand that it's going to reshape our companies from an organization point of view, potentially from cost structure point of view. And here we have three major companies, Nestlé, Pernod Ricard, and L'Oréal. How do you foresee the evolution of your cost structures when it comes with data management, data governance, data creation, investment in CapEx and OpEx in IT, IA, because we know that it's going to be fruitful at the end, but how do you foresee the evolution of all these costs and CapEx over the future?
That's a good question. There are, in fact, two dynamics at the same time. So additional scope, new projects, new types of data, processing, etc. And at the same time, you are getting some really nice efficiencies out of the generative AI. So generative AI is good at language. I was mentioning the English and the French, but also at Python, any language, Java. And we are starting to see already. So in my team, for example, for the budget for the second part of the year, we have cut by 10% already the cost on all the data management and the development of tools. So that's one of the elements of efficiency. Another efficiency is starting to be interesting in terms of tech costs. the benefits of the what's called the low code or no code type of developments because it's quite impressive. I'm actually in parallel to the work in Pernod Ricard at the board of a startup called Jumia which is the Amazon in Africa, and last time I was in their tech center and they showed me the application for HR management, so the equivalent of Workday. I say, wow, this is even better than ours. And this is a company, 5,000 employees. They are SOX compliant, so you know all the rules in the US, etc. So it's super strict. I said, wow, how much did it cost? 150,000 euros. So it's 1/10 of what Pernod Ricard is paying just of licenses. Because in fact you can start to develop things much quicker, and those type of solution you have the user and the developer, which is almost a user interface guy also, at the time that they can change things live instead of doing a specification, sending to somebody, comes back, no, this is not exactly what I wanted, it goes back, etc. So I'm starting to see those kind of efficiencies coming into companies like us, and we need to see how we compensate, because in fact we don't have unlimited budget like any company, even big ones, and so you need to find what's going to bring efficiency at the same time you are developing those projects, otherwise the equation doesn't work.
Maybe I think if you want to succeed in the tech, data, AI, digital, you need to invest on IT. You know, and I won't share the numbers, but the percentage of tech and IT and data on what we spend on versus our turnover has significantly increased over the last 10 years. Otherwise, we won't have been successful in winning in e-commerce, in winning on social media, and in winning on AI. But then and just to give you a hint, tech or IT in L'Oréal used to be in finance. Before we started the beauty tech, was managed by finance. Now we have created the research, innovation, and technology. So the budget is at that level, and the head of that is the deputy CEO of the group. So if you are serious in tech, data, and AI, and you think that will change the company, you will need to invest in that in a focused way, driven by value.
I think you don't have choice, and just look at the value of the tech giant. It goes to the roof because our budgets are behind. Let's be honest. So, I mean, you need to be prepared to spend more, but deliberately, of course. So value is huge. You mentioned efficiencies. After you need to monetize the efficiency, okay, because saving 10% of my time, and you won't pay me 10% less. So it depends where it happens. If it's economies of scale, you can capture growth. If you can make better decisions like we do on media and so on. So efficiencies for me, they are huge. It's a huge growth driver. I mean, we estimate now that 1/3 of our growth in the coming 5 years is somehow driven or enabled by digital. And it's not me making the numbers. So you cannot do now, as we speak, any product innovation without thinking about the experience we give and personalized experience. How do you personalize a mass product like ours? Is through digital. I mean, I'm not going to change the type of Nescafe, between you and your neighbor. So you need to be prepared for that. Of course, we are responsible people, and we manage our budget. But yes, it goes up. And same for Nestlé. Before, IT and so on was under finance. So the final cent it's a cost center. And now we are positioned in the COMEX, meaning that it's a place to invest because we are seen as a growth lever. So it's coming, and I'm sure you're already doing it, but just where are you going to spend is more the question. You spend much anyhow.
Any final question from the audience? No, so I think it was super insightful. Thank you very much to our panelists. Thank you.